Hi everybody and welcome back to 1HourAppSec. I'm Laura Belmain. I'm going to be your coach and guide for all things security you can achieve in just 60 minutes, 1 hour per sprint. In this video, we are going to take a look at why it's important that we protect our source code and why that can be just as important as what source code we write to begin with. Now, I know there's some of you sat at home going, yeah, but I'm an engineer. I want to write code. This is boring. Please bear with me. Please, because I need you to think through this problem, and that's how your brain's going to really understand what you need to do differently. So we focus very heavily in security on the syntax we write. Does it have the right syntax? Does it work? Is it functional? Is it elegant code? Does it have tabs or spaces? But in reality, our attacker doesn't care. Our attacker doesn't care at all what our syntax says. What they care about is that they have an objective to meet, whether that's financial gain or a political influence or revenge, whatever that motivation is. And they want to take any pathway to get to that. Now, that means that our source code and the applications we build are part of that. It's an exposed part of our application suite that we put out on the internet, so it is a potential target for an attacker. But like any other engineer, and remember our attackers are often engineers too, they're going to look at a problem and go, well, all right, I need to achieve X. What's the easiest pathway to get to X? And so securing our source code is a really very important part of making it difficult to find an easy pathway. We secure our source code for 3 reasons, and they link to the core things that we try and protect or preserve in information security. So confidentiality, let's start there. So the idea that data is sensitive and that only certain audiences should have access to it, and that should be an approval. You should, be consciously allowing that person to have access. Our source code and all of the wonderful things we store in our repos has a lot of sensitive information in it. For some of you, if you work in insurance, it could be the algorithm you use to generate your proposals and your renewals, which might be commercially very sensitive. If you work in a deep tech AI company, then perhaps your algorithm, the code that you write, the language model you're developing, could be really unique to you. And you want to protect that. You've got to protect it inside your code. So confidentiality needs to be protected so that we keep those trade secrets nice and safe, and only those people that we want to have access will have access. Next is integrity. Now, integrity is all about being able to trust our data, and we want to be able to trust our source code. So if somebody has unauthorized access to your source code in any way, they could modify it. Now, we've seen this happen with open source projects, right? Where an unauthorized person has managed to commit access to an open source project or has submitted a pull request that wasn't reviewed properly, and they're able to influence that code. And if you're able to change code, as we all know, you can change what the system does. Now, I know we all like to believe we would spot it, right? Someone's changed my code base. I'd notice that. But would you? Would you really? Because if your world is like mine, we're quite busy. And one of the hardest things for us to do is to step back for a moment and go, yeah, I'm going to look at all of these things, all of these changes, all of these logs. We know that the more frequently things are changing, the less likely we are to spot an individual change in that noise. And so if somebody is able to modify our source code, then that is going to cause us big problems later. In financial systems, it might mean that our decisions can't be trusted anymore. In health systems, it could cause physical harm to patients, to humans, to people. If you run an hydroelectric dam, weird story, but they have a lot of those in New Zealand. What if your software was changed so that the safety controls were implemented differently, so that the decision as to when or when not to release water was affected? That's big. And even on the small side, so you write an e-commerce store. What if it sends out your packages without taking payment? You're going to be out of a lot of money, and that's not a business at that point. That's a chaotic scene of crime. So integrity is important. And finally, availability. Our source code needs to be available to us so that we can make amendments, so we can make improvements, so we can keep deploying it, so that if something goes wrong on our production system, we can restore, that we can redeploy, we can get it out there again. So we need to protect all 3 things: the confidentiality of our source code to protect our secrets, to the integrity to make sure our decisions are exactly what they should be and that we're not being interfered with, and that our availability is there so that if we need to deploy that code or build it, we can. Hopefully that's been super helpful for you understanding why it now matters that we protect our source code wherever it is. And in future videos, I'm going to show you how to do that. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We really value that. And if you have a friend, another engineer who might benefit from doing a little bit of application security every sprint, remember to share our URL, www.OneHourAppSec.com. Everyone is welcome.